All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's up? This is Papa Bale, and we're going to look at the propagator from start to finish, or I mean from like turning it on to when it's kind of quote unquote maxed out. So what I mean is we're going to watch the meter from when I turn it on to when it stops adjusting. Okay, let's go through the circuit a little bit. All right, it starts in the middle here at the wheel. All right, and then this coil makes a field. It moves the wheel, and it gets picked up by this big coil right here. Now there's an 18 gauge strand and a 20 gauge strand, and they're in series. For the drive, the starting coil, the power supply is hooked to this one. All right, and now this coil, 18,000 turns of 32 gauge, is hooked to this capacitor, and that cap is hooked to this coil, and then we've got at each drive coil, so to say, each one of these coils is contactless from the coil that's touching it, basically. Okay, so they're not connected. It's there, it's picking up the field. It is not connected to that coil, except through the field. It is connected through the field, I should say, but that is not a typical connection. It's either a clip, or a diode, or some kind of solid connection that it's not there. This is contactless, and that's what I think makes it pretty neat. And then from that contactless transmission of energy from this coil to this one, we dump to this cap, and this cap is connected to this coil with a rectifier, and then that one is hooked up to the meter, and it's also hooked up through a rectifier to this coil where we started. And without that connection, that last connection, it doesn't work at all. It has to be connected to where it started at. And then when I figured that out in my head, I'm like, yeah, you got to connect the end to the beginning for it to propagate at all. All right, so let's turn it on. My voice was destroyed like 10 years ago. So I do the best I can. It's just not good enough most of the time. Nine volts. Do 12 volts. $15 volts. Woo. This is what's coming. Ah, there it goes. So now we are 15.3 volts in. and one bam, 17 volts out. Of course, we're not making any amperage. It's like no amps, just 40 milliamps going through this thing. I'm thinking there'd be more amps if we took the caps out. I'm not sure about that though. Anyway, we're using 800 milliamps. I'm wondering now if we use signal generator instead of a wheel with the setup the way it is right now. If we get a lower amp draw. Man, I'm sorry about that. Here we go. Anyway, I think that's pretty sweet that the energy goes all the way around and then propagates. That's pretty awesome. And there are two 100 to 110, something like that. They're starter caps. The 100 volt starter caps, 1000 to 1100 microfarad. I think that might be what's going on with the wheel right now. No, that can't be it. Well, I mean, it can be because it all goes back through this coil. So it could definitely be. Because the power's off. Yeah, all right. So I think we just drained the caps. I think we can take the caps out completely. But this is awesome. Like having it run, like actually run that long after turning it off is pretty cool. Especially when it's all contactless. It's all like quote unquote wireless. But it's not. Wireless would be, I would consider wireless and contactless, although they are in the realm of being, similar. The range is what determines the difference between those. Like wireless, you go across the room with it, and contactless, you're like right up next to it within the fields. Tiggs, no, baby. I don't know, or we get another cap because we got 3 sections. 3 caps would be good for 3 sections. All right, so I guess what I'm going to do for the next one is remove the caps. Yeah, and just do a solid connection. See, what I do is I take the energy from this coil and I connect it via diode to this one. And then I just hook the other end straight up to the other end of this one. So the energy like flows one way, but at the same time, both of those coils are free to oscillate, I think. Or it's all just going one way when you do that because you have the diode in there. Either way, it works out pretty well. I think realistically, these coils need to be about half the size that they are. And we get such a bigger, boom from the energy that we generate. If we make the coil smaller in length, shorter. For a drive, that's important. It is important. For the drive, you make it a little shorter, but then you need more amps. And I think you'll get more amps. Man. Chipped my tooth a while back. All right, so I'm going to hook some diodes up in here too. See if we can't get the same readings by changing it up a little bit. Removing the caps and putting a diode in between so that we know what's going on. All right, thank you very much. Peace out. Have a great night. Please subscribe. Bye now.